Welcome to the Drowsy Science Channel, and hello, we'll explore one of the most enigmatic frontiers of all tonight, the universe within your own perception, not the vast expanses of the cosmos. Your body uses the senses to convey stories by converting the language of the outside world into tangible objects that you can see and touch. They transform light, chemicals, and basic vibrations into the complete environment around you, creating the appearance of reality. You'll learn how your brain fills in the gaps left by your eyes, how plants themselves can feel the softest touch, and how sound can influence food flavor. Every breath, heartbeat, and color change is a subtle marvel of perception. Before we start, please feel free to like, subscribe, or leave a comment if you like these pleasant travels. One drowsy soul at a time, it guides others to this place as well. But settle in for the time being. Allow your eyes to swell and your mind to become open to the hidden music that permeates every second of your existence. Let's get started. Depending on what you observe, your brain can reinterpret flavor. Food's flavor can be subtly altered in your imagination by its color and look. Your brain might tell you that a green-dyed strawberry yogurt tastes like lime. Similar drinks with various colors are described as tasting sweeter, sourer, or fruitier in controlled trials, although they are chemically similar. Expectations are greatly influenced by vision, and perception is subsequently altered by expectations. To determine what flavor should be present, your brain combines information from sight, smell, and texture. It also frequently fills in the blanks. Tasting is not a sensation in and of itself. Your brain's assumptions about reality are the choreography of this multisensory illusion. Often, what you anticipate to taste is what you believe you are tasting. You are not deceiving yourself. It's finishing the image. In a sense, the taste is as present in your mind as it is on your tongue. There are those who can actually taste colors or words. A rare condition known as synesthesia occurs when a person's senses converge. They may perceive noises as having color. Words can have different flavors like chocolate, cinnamon, or copper, and numbers can have different textures. Michael might taste like mint to one person, but Tuesday might feel rough and blue to another. These are not made-up experiences. Overlapping activity between sensory regions is visible in brain scans. The blurring of the lines between seeing, taste, and feeling demonstrates the true interconnectedness of our senses. By enabling people to remember information by color or taste, synesthesia can enhance emotion, creativity, and memory. It transports one to a world where perception is symphonic rather than distinct, where every word melts on the tongue and every sound has color. In actuality, this merging is faintly echoed by all of us. The senses were never intended to function alone. Together, they make up the globe. The sense most closely associated with memory is smell. You can be instantaneously transported back in time when a familiar aroma, such as campfire smoke or the biting sweetness of rain on pavement, wafts past. Smell goes directly to the limbic system, the emotional center of the brain, in contrast to sight or hearing, which passes through several levels of processing. The areas that influence memory and emotion, the hippocampus and amygdala, are intimately connected to the olfactory bulb. Because of this, a scent has the power to vividly bring back entire moments. Not only what took place, but the sensation as well. This is known as the P effect by scientists, following the author who spoke of recollections rising from the scent of limes and tea. Smell transcends language and reasoning. It communicates with unadulterated passion. It serves as a reminder that memory is composed of experiences, complex whispers of the world that are subtly carried through time in the air we breathe, rather than words or images. Like fingerprints, each human nose is different. Your sense of smell is completely personal, even if we don't often think of it that way. Your olfactory signature is unique to you due to the form of your nasal cavity, the sensitivity of your receptors, and even minute genetic variations. The aroma of the same rose isn't actually the same for two people. The world's chemical mix is interpreted differently by your special combination of more than 400 scent receptors, which blend notes in ways that are only understood by your brain. This uniqueness can affect everything, including the foods you crave and the perfumes you enjoy. One gene can determine whether a person tastes soap or cilantro, which some people naturally find fresh and lemony. Even identical twins with virtually identical DNA might perceive smells slightly differently. Everybody breathes in the identical molecules, yet each nose converts them into a unique invisible language. Over 1 trillion distinct scents are detectable by your sense of smell. For many years, experts thought that humans could only detect 10,000 different odors, underestimating the power of our nostrils. However, 21st century research dispelled that myth. Scientists discovered that the human olfactory system could distinguish between at least 1 trillion distinct odor combinations, if not more, using sophisticated smell blends. Similar to how musical notes form chords, each fragrance is associated with a pattern of receptor activation rather than a single molecule. These patterns are instantaneously decoded by your brain, which compares them to memories of freshly baked bread, flowers, or smoke. Because smell used to aid in survival by identifying rotten food, potential threats, or safe havens, this vast spectrum evolved. Today, though, it links us to more subdued joys. The warmth of another person's skin, the salt of the sea, and the smell of earth after rain. The universe is infinitely richer than we ever realize, as evidenced by the invisible tapestry of information carried by every breath. When you hold your nose, you lose some of your sense of taste. Taste and smell work together to create food's flavor, and the entire psalm changes when one person stops talking. There are only 5 basic tastes that your tongue can recognize: umami, bitter, salty, sour, and sweet. The gentle sweetness of strawberries, the smokiness of chocolate, and the brightness of mint are all caused by fragrance molecules that ascend to your nose from the back of your throat. That channel is blocked when you pinch your nose shut. The end effect is a dull, flat experience where only basic tastes are left behind and intricacy vanishes. This explains why when you have a cold, food looks boring. The complete scent rushes in and the flavor blooms again as soon as you let go of your nose. Then, taste is not limited to the tongue. It's a partnership between biology and breath. A collaboration between the senses that demonstrates how strongly smell influences what we refer to as flavor. Food flavor primarily consists of scent rather than taste. The nose is where most of what we call flavor resides. The olfactory receptors that really make eating an experience are activated as you chew because air carrying volatile chemicals rises into your nasal cavity. Mango sweetness, coffee richness, and cheese sharpness are all scents rather than tongue-based flavors. According to experiments, a strawberry that is still delicious can taste nearly flavorless when the nose is blocked. Chefs and food scientists use this interaction to create intricate flavor sensations by harmonizing scent components. In the meantime, various sensory inputs are combined by your brain to create a single, smooth impression. It does not distinguish between scent and taste. It combines them into one tasting illusion. Eating is therefore a multi-sensory performance. Memory, texture, smell, and sight all work together. Your mind silently choreographs the story your senses tell with each bite. Some people have thousands more taste buds than the ordinary person, making them super tasters. Unusual, dense clusters of taste buds, sometimes twice as many as others, are present in about 1 in 4 people. Intense flavor is the norm for these super tasters. Foods that are bitter may taste too sharp. Coffee and alcohol might feel harsh. Furthermore, even mildly spicy foods can be too much. However, this enhanced sense of taste does more than just make things more potent. It makes things more complicated. Super tasters are able to pick up on minor differences that others overlook. The subtlety of tea, the richness of chocolate, and the delicate bitterness of greens. The difference lies in physiology rather than choice. There are more taste buds per square inch of tongue, and each one is linked to a more extensive nerve network. According to some scientists, this characteristic may have helped people avoid poisonous plants in the past. It turns eating into a colorful, occasionally draining experience these days. Even everyday food can seem symphonic to a skilled taster. Sweet flavors are preferred by newborns. Infants exhibit an innate affinity for sweetness from the moment of their birth. It's a means of survival. Sweetness frequently indicates foods high in energy, such as fruit and milk. According to studies, when given something sweet, neonates relax and even grin, but when given something bitter or sour, they grimace. Prior to learning or experience influencing preferences, this early bias aids in guiding nutrition. The brain is rewired to accommodate a wider variety of preferences throughout time. However, that first fondness for sweetness endures. It's interesting to note that the mother's food is carried in the amniotic fluid in the womb. In other words, a baby's first taste experiences occur prior to birth. A mother can gently flavor her child's world before the first breath by eating carrots, garlic, or vanilla. It appears that long before we open our eyes to perceive it, taste is a whisper from the outer world. Pain is what spicy food is, not flavor. You feel the heat when you bite into a chili pepper rather than just taste it. A substance known as capsaicin causes the burning sensation by activating pain receptors in your mouth, which are also responsible for sensing scorching temperatures. When your brain perceives a threat, it releases endorphins and adrenaline into your body. Ironically, though, this discomfort has the potential to become addictive. A euphoric calm is produced by the endorphin rush. Additionally, tolerance increases with repeated exposure. Spice enthusiasts' brains seek out the excitement, which is why they frequently demand ever hotter foods. Chili peppers are not the only source of capsaicin. Similar compounds found in mustard, wasabi, and even some black peppers produce comparable effects. Spicy flavor is essentially a sensory illusion. Pleasure disguised as pain. Your nervous system feels the heat, but your tongue doesn't. And food feels vividly alive somehow, thanks to that blazing trick of biology. Your brain combines thousands of tastes, whereas your tongue recognizes only 5 main ones. Simplicity is the foundation of taste. Sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami are the 5 primary senses. However, flavor is not as straightforward as we think. Taste buds are small clusters of sensory cells that are tuned to these fundamental categories and cover the tongue. However, your brain produces many variations that seem limitless when paired with scent, warmth, touch, and even sound. There is more to the difference between a crunchy and a mushy apple than just texture. Perceived freshness is actually changed by the biting sound. Warmth intensifies sweetness, while the fizz of a carbonated beverage intensifies acidity. These feelings are smoothly combined by the brain, transforming every meal into an adventure rather than a recipe. What you refer to as taste is actually a symphony of sensations, a constantly changing dialogue between your body and your imagination that transforms taste molecules on your tongue into whole mental worlds of flavor. It's possible that humans have a 6th taste for fats. Scientists thought there were only 5 basic tastes for many years. Recent studies, however, indicate that we might have developed an additional one, a strong sensitivity to lipids. Responses to specific fatty acids are triggered by specialized tongue receptors that are not affected by sweetness or saltiness. This is logical. From a biological perspective, fat is abundant in energy, essential for survival, and profoundly satisfying to the brain. Subtle cues like the richness of butter, the soothing taste of warm soup, and the velvety smoothness of chocolate all trigger this hidden sensation. A person's appetite and dietary preferences are influenced by their sensitivity to these fatty notes. It's interesting to note that people who are most sensitive to fat tend to consume less of it since their brains pick it up sooner. Once believed to be just texture, Fat is now being shown to have its own flavor, the silent, opulent beating heart of the food industry. Cats have no sense of sweetness. Sugar is as good as sand to a cat. Cats don't have a crucial protein that humans do that allows them to taste sweet things. Due to a genetic abnormality that happened long ago in their carnivorous history, they have broken taste receptors for sweetness. They never had to identify carbs because they consume meat almost exclusively. Cats have no reaction to sweets, whereas people have a craving for chocolate and fruit. They are not, however, destitute. They are more sensitive to various flavors, particularly those of flesh-based amino acids. Some even react to tasty substances that are hardly perceptible to humans. This odd blindness to sweetness demonstrates how senses are adapted by evolution to ensure survival. Each creature's taste perception reflects its most pressing needs. Cats never cared about sugar. Instead, their entire sensory universe is defined by the taste of protein and the aroma of prey. Fish use their whole body to taste. Fish have developed a remarkable adaptation because many of them live in areas where sight and smell are not reliable. Their skin, fins, and even tails are covered in taste buds. For instance, by swimming through chemical traces in the water, a catfish can detect them. It functions as a taste tool across its entire body. Amino acids, salts, and other substances emitted by plants or prey are detected by these exterior taste buds. Over 100,000 of them are found in some species, transforming their bodies into live chemical and flavor maps. Imagine not having to open your mouth to detect the subtle sweetness of algae or the metallic taste of minerals. Taste in fish is not limited to consumption. It's a way to learn about the liquid world they live in and to become more conscious of the environment. They see with taste in their dark ocean depths and silent rivers. With their limbs, octopuses are able to taste. Hundreds of suckers line the 8 limbs of an octopus. Additionally, every sucker has the ability to taste and touch independently. When an octopus investigates its environment, it tastes things in addition to feeling their texture. The octopus can quickly differentiate between rock, shell, and possible food because of these specialized cells that can detect compounds emitted by prey or hidden food sources. Each limb has some autonomy because of the local processing of this sensory data by its brain, which is dispersed across its arms. Because of their dispersed intellect, octopuses are able to multitask in ways that are virtually unnatural. One arm is examining a shell and the other is getting ready to attack. The ocean floor becomes a map of flavor and signal, thanks to their tactile sense of taste. Every surface has a narrative to tell, and the octopus uses a ballet of taste and touch to choose its next course of action. Butterflies use their feet to taste. A butterfly is not merely resting when it lands on a leaf. It is also tasting. Its feet have tiny chemosensors that can quickly identify plant compounds, carbohydrates, and poisons. Butterflies can use this ability to determine whether a leaf is good for feeding or laying eggs. Whether the plant will help or hurt its caterpillars can be determined by a simple tap of the foot. Particularly discriminating, female butterflies engage in exquisite taste dances prior to selecting the ideal location. In order to avoid competition, some species can even detect pheromones or chemical cues from other species. Imagine being able to quickly determine the composition of the earth and whether it might support life just by stepping onto it. This sensory ability is essential to a butterfly's survival. It is a delicate balance between instinct and chemistry that helps them navigate their precarious existence amidst the world's flowers. Before birth, the sense of touch begins to develop. Touch is the first sense to develop in the embryo, much before sight or hearing does. Even before the brain is fully developed, a developing baby starts reacting to light contact at about 8 weeks of gestation. Tactile signals aid in the development of the brain's architecture as nerves and skin grow together, directing connections that will eventually govern movement, perception, and emotion. Touch defines the boundaries of the self by teaching the body where it starts and stops. This sensation continues to be essential to human development even after birth. A warm bath, a soft blanket, a parent's touch, or gentle contact all produce hormones that fortify brain networks and promote relaxation. Touch is, in this sense, the first language we ever use and possibly the last one we forget. It teaches us what it means to be a part of a body and is the quiet basis of all other senses. There are over 20 different kinds of nerve endings in your skin. The human skin serves as more than just a barrier. It is a map of sensation in real time. Millions of nerve endings that are specific to various signals such as pressure, vibration, temperature, strain, pain, and texture are located beneath every square centimeter. Some react to heat or deep pressure, while others react to the brush of a feather. Some sensors only activate when you move, while others remain dormant until the smallest temperature change activates them. Together, they make up the largest sensory organ in the body, continuously informing the brain about what, how quickly, and how strongly something touches you. A single particle of sand, a drop of water, or a whisper of air can all have their own neuronal signatures. You can tell silk from stone, warmth from cold, and danger from safety thanks to the depth of touch. Every instant is alive with subliminal information from the physical environment, which you communicate with constantly through your skin. Touch can be sensed by some persons, but not by others. The sensitivity of different types of skin varies. Some people may feel vibrations and textures below the typical threshold of awareness because they have an incredibly fine sense of touch. These hypersensitive individuals can use their fingertip alone to detect minute variations in surfaces or the touch of a single human hair against their skin. In severe situations, this sensitivity may even be too much to tolerate, such as when soft materials or garment tags hurt. Scientists believe this increased awareness is caused by genetic changes or variations in nerve density. Unusually finely tuned tactile sensitivity can occasionally be advantageous to musicians, artists, and surgeons, enabling more control and accuracy. For others, however, it's a never-ending struggle. The actual world seems too real. After all, touch is more than merely mechanical. It's quite sentimental. One individual may see something as soft, whereas another may perceive it as acute. Our senses are not the only senses our bodies have. They all have different interpretations of it. Touch and emotion are so closely related in one rare illness that it can be overwhelming. Touch is grounding and reassuring to most individuals. However, the experience becomes almost intolerable for people who have mirror touch synesthesia. Their own bodies mimic the sensation of being touched, as though it were occurring to them when they witness someone else being touched. It is possible for someone to physically feel someone brushing their arm. The distinction between self and other is blurred by this overlap between empathy and sensation. It is thought to be caused by abnormally close connections between the brain's mirror neuron and somatosensory systems, circuits that mimic the experiences of others. It instills in certain people a deep sense of empathy for others, overflow of senses. It demonstrates the flexibility of perception, how our nervous systems are intertwined rather than separate. It's not just physical touch, it is profoundly human, relational, and emotional. It allows us to sense the echoes of others around us, as well as our own life. Heat and cold are sensed by completely distinct receptors. Two different sensations, warmth and cold, are conveyed by different nerve fibers, making temperature not a single feeling. Warm receptors fire as the temperature rises, and cold receptors fire when the temperature falls. However, your brain combines various information to produce a single sensation of temperature. You get contradictory feelings, such as the tingling burn of chili or menthol when both burn simultaneously. Mint feels cool and cinnamon feels hot because some nerve terminals even confuse chemical stimulation for temperature. This complex system triggers reflexes long before you are aware of them, protecting the body against extremes. It also contributes to the emotional depth of temperature, the sharp alertness of cold, and the comfort of warmth. There is more to your skin than just degrees. It transforms physics into the language of comfort, caution, and touch by converting energy into emotion. One of the human body's most delicate areas is the lips. The lips are incredibly sensitive to touch, texture, and temperature because they are almost completely free of protective layers and packed with dense clusters of nerve endings. Compared to the skin on your fingertips, they have about 100 times as many nerve endings. Subtle differences are made possible by these sensitivities. The coziness of a cup, the texture of cloth, or the intimacy of another being. Lips sense temperature changes rapidly because they don't have hair or sweat glands. Their redness, which adds warmth and sensitivity, is caused by blood vessels that are just below the surface. Emotion is linked to the lips in addition to biology. Pleasure and social bonding are associated with the same brain areas that process touch here. A whisper, a sip, a kiss. You might be surprised to learn how much more sensory information each one contains. The lips are used for connection, converting touch into intimacy, and not just for communication or food. Blind people are significantly more accurate at reading textures than sighted people. The brain does not become silent when vision is lost. It rewires itself. When blind people perform touch-based tasks, such as reading Braille, their visual cortex, which is typically responsible for seeing, becomes engaged. Extraordinary sensitivity to texture and detail is made possible by this brain adaptation. Some blind persons have a tactile resolution that is superior to that of sighted people, allowing them to detect patterns that are just a millimeter apart. Researchers have discovered that the brain sharpens the feeling of texture and shape by reallocating unused visual circuits to improve touch perception. With practice, the already very innovative fingertips become even more responsive. Touch turns into a new form of vision that senses by contact rather than light, not only a replacement for sight. It serves as a reminder that the senses are adaptable instruments with the power to undergo significant change as one door closes and another opens. The sensation of ticklishness developed as a means of self-defense and social bonding. One of the most peculiar human sensations is tickling, both enjoyable and intolerable. According to scientists, it has two interrelated functions: play and protection. In social settings, tickling promotes bonding and laughing, enhancing trust between friends, partners, and parents. Yet, the same sensation also evolved as a defensive reaction. Attacks can also target the most sensitive spots, such as the neck, armpits, and ribs. It's possible that the subsequent uncontrollable wriggling and laughter taught the body to respond rapidly to sudden contact. It's interesting to note that your brain anticipates your actions and eliminates the surprise, so you can't really tickle yourself. Then, ticklishness inhabits the thin line that separates predictability from anticipation, a light-hearted paradox at the core of human contact. It serves as a reminder that sensation encompasses not only nerves and skin, but also emotion and relationships. Phantom limb sensations show the internal mapping of touch in the brain. When someone loses a limb, they often continue to feel it. Pressure, warmth, itching, and even pain that seems to be persistent. These phantom limb experiences demonstrate that touch is encoded in the brain's somatosensory map rather than being limited to the physical body. The homunculus, a detailed internal representation, is formed by the cortical regions that correspond to each bodily part. A part of the brain stays active when a limb goes missing, occasionally due to stimuli from the surrounding area. For example, an amputee may experience sensations in their missing hand when their face is touched. Mirror therapy, which employs visual input to deceive the brain into seeing the limb again, can alleviate phantom pain, revealing how perception can be modified by illusion. Ultimately, touch extends beyond the boundaries of your skin. It is a part of the mind's very structure. Your brain continuously anticipates your feelings before they materialize. Every movement, touch, and texture you come into contact with is filtered by a prediction algorithm. You don't have to wait for information to reach your brain. It predicts it. Your sensory brain predicts the weight, temperature, and pressure you will feel before your hand even reaches for an object. By modifying your grip before feedback is given, this prediction facilitates fluid interaction with the environment. Your brain quickly modifies its representation of reality when something unexpected occurs, such as when a surface turns out to be rougher, heavier, or colder than anticipated. This technique, known as predictive coding, allows sensation to feel instantaneous while saving a significant amount of computing effort. That's why self-tickling doesn't work. The brain anticipates it. Thus, the feeling is subdued. Perception is essentially more about verifying assumptions than it is about obtaining knowledge. Passive windows are not what your senses are. As the world changes right in front of your eyes, they are dynamic storytellers who are always changing their narratives. We can sense sound waves through our skin. Not all sound is something we can hear. It is a physical vibration that travels through our bodies as well as through the air and water. More frequency waves can be perceived as mild shakes in the fingertips or chest, particularly bottom tones. Acoustic energy is transformed into tactile feeling by the skin's mechanoreceptors, which are sensitive enough to pick up on these minute motions. This confluence of senses improves our perception of music. Hearing is given more texture when we hear the deep resonance of a drum or the hum of an engine vibrating through us. People who are deaf or hard of hearing can nonetheless sense pace and rhythm in experiments by using vibration alone. In a way, the body becomes an instrument tuned to the silent pulse of motion, an extension of the ear. The sensation of sound serves as a reminder that perception is not limited to a single sense. It's a full-body dialogue with the world's physics. Some deaf persons utilize vibrations to experience music. Music doesn't vanish for those who are deaf. Rather, it changes. Vibration is a common method for deaf musicians and listeners to experience rhythm, melody, and emotional subtleties. They utilize wearable technology that converts sound frequencies into pulses against the skin, stand barefoot on hardwood floors, or rest their hands on speakers. Ever adaptive, the brain learns to decipher these vibrations into meaningful patterns. While some deaf performers use their body to express hearing, others compose by imagining frequencies. The acute flare of high notes on the fingertips and the deep rumble of bass in the chest. The fluidity of the boundaries of sense is demonstrated by this tactile interaction with music. Vibration is touch, and sound is vibration. Therefore, the ear is not the only sense that may experience art. It's something we can feel, live, and interpret via every fiber of the body. Your hearing never really goes away. Your brain just learns to block out noise. Even in profound sleep, your ears remain awake. They keep getting sound, which sends generally disregarded messages to the brain. The brain determines what is important in the auditory cortex, not in the ear, where the filtering takes place. Through a process known as habituation, recurrent sounds that are familiar to you, like the hum of a refrigerator or the ticking of a clock, become less noticeable. However, an odd sound, such as an abrupt creak or whisper, immediately emerges. In order to survive, this selective attention evolved, allowing us to sleep without losing our sense of alertness. However, it also highlights the subjectivity of hearing. Silence is merely a quieting of awareness. It is never really silent. Even in the silence of the night, your brain continues to listen. Not to all sounds, but to the patterns it considers significant. Even when you aren't aware of it, the world is still humming silently around you. The eardrum moves less than an atom's breadth in response to the quietest sound that a human ear can perceive. Sound becomes nearly impossible at the hearing threshold. A far breeze, a leaf rustling, a whisper. The eardrum is moved by these soft waves by less than one hydrogen atom's width. However, the mechanical accuracy of the ear converts that little vibration into a series of impulses that go through microscopic hair cells in the cochlea, tiny bones, and fluid waves. Every cell creates a map of sound throughout your auditory landscape by resonating to a certain frequency. This sensitivity is almost supernatural. Pressures that might harm the ear are 1,000,000,000 times weaker than what the ear can sense. Your body is on the edge of physics in peaceful periods, able to detect even the smallest disturbance in the atmosphere. Hearing is more than simply volume. Paying attention to even the smallest movements is crucial, evidence that even the softest whisper has the capacity to be heard. Differences less than a microsecond can be used by your brain to identify the source of a sound. Together, your ears form a sophisticated detection system that can locate the source of a sound with nearly unachievable accuracy. One ear receives the sound of an object's sound just a split second before the other. A delay as little as less than 1/1,000,000th of a second is possible. However, your brain immediately recognizes that difference and determines distance and direction. Triangulating the precise location of a footstep, a voice, or a rustling leaf is made easier by even minute changes in phase and volume. In real time, the auditory brain converts milliseconds into geometric representations of this data. It's the ability to point unerringly toward a sound source while closing your eyes. This skill developed as a result of survival, tracking prey and predators, and observing other people's motions in the dark. Despite having a little head, you have incredible timing. The quiet between heartbeats is a living sonar. Earworms, which are enigmatic songs that play repeatedly in the brain as auditory hallucinations, are experienced by certain people. It's a harmless mental echo for most individuals. However, some people experience these loops as intense oral hallucinations, full of texture, rhythm, and tone. The phenomenon occurs when the auditory cortex of the brain replays previously recorded sound patterns without receiving input from the ears. The jukebox in your brain seems to be locked on repeat. Although the loop can be triggered by stress, exhaustion, and repetition, experts believe it has a purpose. It reinforces memory through rehearsal. Because musicians' brains are wired for sound prediction, they are especially susceptible to earworms. The song doesn't really exist, which is amazing. The same circuits in your brain that process hearing are also used to create it from memory. Every chorus and hum that is stuck in your head is a sound ghost. The imagination itself performs an invisible concert. Compared to humans, bats can hear echoes hundreds of times faster. Bats use sound to see in the dark. Their ultrasonic screams are reflected off of objects and return as echoes, creating a clear picture of their environment. The speed of scientists, however, is what really astounds them. These echoes can be processed hundreds of times more quickly by a bat's brain than by ours. They can quickly modify their flight route and identify a flying bug in complete darkness, thanks to this quick response. A constant stream of audio information is produced by some species more than 100 clicks every second. They can identify variations in echo timing as little as a microsecond thanks to their extremely sensitive auditory systems, which can reveal not only position but also shape, distance, and texture. Sound is not abstract to a bat. It's real. The world's invisible outlines shimmer in the air around them. Bats perceive a complex, shifting landscape made entirely of echoes, but humans would just see darkness. Elephants have the ability to hear sounds that humans cannot. Elephants use low-pitched rumbles that are inaudible to humans to communicate deep within the savannas. These infrasonic sounds travel great distances, up to 6 miles, by vibrating through the air and earth. Elephants can detect even the smallest seismic waves thanks to sensitive pads on their feet in addition to their massive ears. These low frequencies convey greetings, cautions, social information, and even emotional tones. Researchers have captured family groups responding to one another over open airways long before they are visible. The planet itself seems to turn into a communal phone line. Similar vibrations can be felt by humans if they are magnified. Elephants, however, can understand them just as well as humans. They have hearing that extends into unimaginable frequencies. Through sound and dirt, a covert communication system connects herds over unseen vibrational frontiers. Whales use infrasonic sound, which can travel millions of miles, to communicate. Whales sing songs that can go around the globe from beneath the ocean's surface. Their calls can reach frequencies so low that they can be heard for thousands of miles over the ocean without losing their sound. Distant pods across the entire ocean are connected by these infrasonic notes, which travel through the deep like unseen waves. For example, blue whales can make noises that are lower than 20 Hz, not so much heard as felt vibrations. According to scientists, these enormous voices aid in their ability to travel, locate partners, and plan migrations over great distances. Recorded by deep-sea hydrophones, the patterns are so lengthy and structured that they sound like music, and they change somewhat every year. Transmitting messages farther than any human device could without distortion, the ocean itself turns into a resonating chamber. The sea is not quiet to the whales. It is full of a sluggish, eerie language that envelops the world in a never-ending, fluid dialogue. Owls use their hearing alone to locate prey in complete darkness. Light is not necessary for an owl to hunt. Sound is directed toward its asymmetrically positioned ears, one of which is somewhat higher than the other, by its satellite dish-shaped face. Because of its irregular shape, the owl is able to create a three-dimensional image of sound by detecting even the smallest variations in timing and intensity between its ears. With only the tiny rustle of movement as a clue, it can find a mouse under a layer of snow. Even when their eyes are covered, owls can hit their prey with almost flawless accuracy in studies. Specialized neurons in their brains map space in great detail by reacting to sound's height and direction. Their distinctively fringed feathers provide a silent flight, ensuring that nothing obstructs their acoustic vision. An owl doesn't care about darkness. Sound shapes fill the night, living echoes of every whisper and heartbeat in the forest below. Your inner ear is where your sense of balance resides. The vestibular system, your internal compass, is a maze of fluid-filled chambers tucked away deep inside each ear. These semicircular canals contain tiny crystals and hair cells that sense acceleration, tilt, and movement changes. The fluid changes when you turn your head, bending sensitive cilia that tell the brain how your body is oriented. This system works in tandem with your eyes and muscles to keep you balanced, erect, and aware of which direction is up. Dizziness or vertigo can be caused by a variety of confused signals, including the slightest perturbation, fluid imbalance, infection, or motion. Surprisingly, you can maintain your feeling of balance even when you're blind or visually impaired. It is completely mechanical and depends on physics instead of vision. Every movement, every nod, every look is adjusted by this silent, moment-by-moment sensing. The world would tilt and swirl beneath your feet all the time without it. The fluid in your ears continues to move while you spin. That is the cause of your vertigo. Even when you stop spinning after a small swirl or turn, it seems to continue spinning. Your inner ear fluid is the source of this feeling. Canals that are semicircular and sense rotation. The fluid moves a little more slowly than you do, which causes your brain's sensory hairs to bend and alert you to acceleration. For a few seconds after you stop, the fluid continues to spin, tricking your brain into believing you are still moving. The familiar, lightheaded confusion is caused by the contradictory signals, eyes perceiving stillness, ears perceiving movement. Youngsters frequently playfully pursue this emotion, giggling as their minds attempt to make sense of the paradox. However, in severe situations like motion sickness, the disparity between vestibular and ocular cues becomes incapacitating. Your body uses dizziness as a signal that something is off. As equilibrium restores, the feeling lessens. Evidence that even balance has momentum that reverberates long after motion has stopped. In zero gravity, astronauts' balancing systems may become confused. The fluid in your inner ear is continuously pulled by gravity on Earth, providing your brain with a steady sense of up and down. That cue vanishes in space. Space adaptation sickness, or cosmic vertigo, is the result of astronauts' vestibular system's inability to perceive motion without the accustomed pull of gravity. Mixed messages are sent to the brain. The inner ear feels numb, although the eyes indicate movement. Disorientation, nausea, and a strange floating sensation that lasts for days might result from this mismatch. The brain gradually adjusts to operate in microgravity by reinterpreting movement inputs. It's interesting to note that the uncertainty caused by reverse gravity feels strange to astronauts when they return to Earth. It turns out that balance isn't absolute. The body and its surroundings have a link. Humans relearn what up means in orbit, demonstrating that even something as basic as balance is influenced by a planet's pull. Some fish use a lateral line that detects pressure to detect movement. The lateral line system is a series of microscopic, fluid-filled tubes that run along each side of a fish's body. They include hair cells that are sensitive to changes in water pressure and vibrations, much like those found in the human inner ear. Fish can detect movement, current, and even the presence of surrounding creatures without being able to see them because of their hidden sense. A fish can sense an approaching predator by the slight ripples it creates in a murky lake or dark river. In order to turn in almost perfect synchronization without colliding, schooling fish use their lateral lines to cooperate. Adapted to the fluid environment they live in, it is a sixth sense of flow and closeness. This sensitivity is crucial for organisms that live in constant motion. An invisible wave map, a presence sense based solely on pressure. Touch makes the water come to life for a fish. Only a small portion of the electromagnetic spectrum is visible to your eyes. Only a small range of electromagnetic radiation makes up the light you see, including the reds, blues, greens, and all the hues in between. Beyond its range are radio waves, microwaves, gamma rays, ultraviolet, infrared, X-rays, and longer and shorter wavelengths. This narrow range is translated into the visible world by your retinas, which only have 3 different kinds of color-sensitive cones. But because it is shown in stars, oceans, and sunsets, this sliver seems endless. Bees are able to see UV light. Snakes are able to detect infrared. Additionally, certain fish can sense polarization, realms that we cannot see. The cosmos surrounds you with unseen light and hums with unimaginable hues. In reality, what you refer to as a seam is sampling. A single octave of a cosmic symphony is being interpreted by your brain. Remembering that the rainbow is merely a piece of reality is humbling. A tiny, dazzling window that lets you see the enormous, invisible range of life. Bees are able to discern UV patterns that humans cannot. A flower is just colorful to a bee, but to a human, it is not. The landing strip is bright. UV markings, which are invisible to us but dazzlingly bright to bees, are present on a lot of flowers. Pollinators are guided to their reward by these nectar guides, which point straight toward the center. Like humans, bees have 3 different kinds of photosensors, but one of them is oriented toward ultraviolet light rather than red. This change creates a completely new color universe with sparkling edges and hidden contrasts in the petals. The designs aren't ornamental. Their maps were created through evolution for both parties' advantage. Pollination could stall if bees were unable to see ultraviolet light. Bees would be blind if there were no patterns on the blooms. They work together to create one of nature's most exquisite partnerships. A conversation in invisible light. The garden is a gallery of glowing signals to the bee. Each petal is painted with invisible symphonies. Snakes with infrared-sensitive pits are able to detect heat. Boas, pythons, and pit vipers are remarkably adapted. Pit organs are tiny heat-sensing organs located close to their nostrils. Even in total darkness, snakes can create thermal maps of their environment thanks to these structures' ability to detect infrared radiation, which is the warmth released by living things. Nerve endings that react to temperature variations as little as a fraction of a degree are abundant in the thin membrane that surrounds each pit. The snake receives a combined feeling of sight and heat from the data and visual input. A mouse is like a tiny star in the night to them. They can attack with perfect accuracy thanks to their thermal vision, which uses warmth rather than light as guidance. Snakes observe a brilliant scene of heat signatures where we see darkness, a world lighted by the soft radiation of life itself, not by photons. There are up to 16 different kinds of color receptors in mantis shrimp. There are just 3 of us. The 3 types of cones in human eyes allow us to see millions of hues, but mantis shrimp go beyond that. Up to 16 distinct photoreceptor types that are adapted to visible, polarized, and ultraviolet light are found in their compound eyes. With remarkable detail, each eye moves on its own to scan the water. Ironically, though, mantis shrimp might not perceive color as strongly as humans do. Rather than harmonizing colors, their brains interpret information more like a scanner than a painter, quickly identifying discrepancies. Their vision is ideal for living on coral reefs, where predators and prey concealed from view are revealed by polarized reflections. Through their eyes, the world could seem like a colorful yet useful patchwork of shifting messages. They see the sea as a living kaleidoscope of sight and physics, an electric tapestry of light that no other creature can see. Birds perceive hues that are not even perceived by humans. The majority of birds have 4 colors. They have 4 different kinds of color receptors, which increases their sensitivity to ultraviolet light beyond the 3 that humans typically employ. This additional cone allows us to see color in a whole new way. Not only can they perceive shapes more vividly, they see combinations that are beyond our comprehension. Blue or yellow are combined with ultraviolet to create hues that have no human counterpart. In a bird's sight, feathers that appear plain to us may be blazing with iridescent patterns that indicate health, species, or attraction. Certain fruits and flowers have evolved especially to be noticeable in this UV environment. For birds, sunlight shines with subtle gradients, and the sky is covered with colors humans will never be able to identify. Their vision serves as a reminder that perception, not physics, determines reality, and that the beauty we perceive is but a fraction of the true beauty that surrounds us. To see, certain deep-sea organisms produce their own light. Life creates its own light in the abyssal depths where sunlight never reaches. Bioluminescence, or light-emitting chemical processes, is used by many deep-sea animals, not just to communicate with mates or attract prey, but also to observe. Soft blue-green halos are cast into the darkness by illuminating microorganisms that some fish create and cover their skin with or fill specialized organs with. Others outline surrounding shapes with flashes of light resembling fleeting lightning in the deep. To hide their shadows from predators below, certain squid employ counter-illumination, which involves illuminating downward. Light is not a constant gift from the sun to these species. They have to produce that resource. Each glimmer turns into a visionary moment, a self-created dawn in the never-ending night. Shining and seeing are synonymous in that black ocean. When darkness transforms into its own unique form of brilliance, deception is produced from inside. Every second, your brain fills in the gaps in your vision. Where the optic nerve leaves the retina in each of your eyes is a tiny patch devoid of any light-detecting cells. Your blind spot is this. However, your brain silently removes it so you never realize it. Your visual cortex fills in the missing detail automatically using information from the other eye, pattern recognition, and prediction. Even with one eye closed, the world seems to be smooth. What ought to be there is created by your brain. This silent adjustment is ongoing. Reality is stitched together by a living Photoshop. In experiments, items that are positioned exactly in the blind area just disappear. What you see is a complex reconstruction rather than raw data, an illusion that is so persuasive that you are unaware of its shortcomings. A camera is not your mind. As an artist, it constantly fills in the blanks with its best estimate of reality. In fact, everything appears to be upside down. Your brain automatically flips it. An inverted image is projected onto your retina by the bent lens of your eyes as light enters. Left turns into right, and the top of the world lands at the bottom. But before you realize it, your brain automatically fixes this and straightens the image. Your mind will ultimately adjust if you use inversion goggles, which reverse vision once more. It relearns up and down in a matter of days. This automatic adjustment shows that sight is interpretative as well as mechanical. You don't view the world as it actually is. You see the version of it that is stabilized, directed, and meaning-filtered by your brain. We are reminded that perception is malleable by the inversion of vision. That in the mental domain, even direction and gravity are arbitrary. In essence, every look you take is a silent miracle of reinterpretation. Your eyes are always moving, even when you believe your gaze is motionless. Make an effort to maintain a completely steady look. You can't. You never have still eyes. They exhibit microsaccades, which are tiny jittering motions, even while focused on a single point. Your retina's photoreceptors are kept from desensitizing to static light by these frequent changes. Your eyesight would turn gray in a matter of seconds if your eyes could actually freeze. Your perspective is refreshed by these tiny motions, which maintain details and crisp edges. They also aid in the brain's ability to perceive depth, motion, and contrast. The paradox of vision is that you see stability because your eyes are always moving rather than because they are motionless. There is a dance hiding behind every look. To maintain the world's vibrancy, millions of tiny tweaks are coordinated. It appears that restlessness is necessary for seeing. Even when you're relaxed, your eyes are constantly moving, silent light seekers, quivering faintly beneath the quiet. While peripheral vision is quite good at detecting motion, it is very bad at color. Your primary vision may pick up delicate textures, rich colors, crisp lines, and vivid details when you look directly ahead. However, things fade and blur around the margins. Rod cells, which are almost colorblind but extremely sensitive to light and movement, predominate on the periphery of the retina. In order to survive, this trade-off emerged. Danger could be indicated by motion at the border of vision. Your reflexes are triggered long before conscious thought when you notice a flicker in the corner of your eye. Twilight images are washed in gray because rods operate completely better in low light than color-sensitive cones. This peculiarity is used by filmmakers and artists to add realism or tension. Something moving but invisible feels alive. Peripheral vision is your silent watchdog, scanning the borders of awareness. It reminds us that even in silence, your eyes are constantly scanning the horizon for change, sacrificing color for alertness. When you look at something you love, your pupils enlarge. Long before words can convey emotion, the eyes do. Your pupils naturally enlarge when you gaze at something or someone that makes you feel anything. There is no cognitive control over this dilatation. The autonomic nervous system's reaction to arousal, curiosity, or affection is what propels it. Without understanding biology, Renaissance artists frequently portrayed their models with slightly enlarged pupils to give them a more vibrant, lovely, and human appearance. According to studies, our brains interpret others' dilated pupils as a subliminal indication of warmth and attraction. In wonder, the same reflex takes place. Your eyes literally open up to the world when you look at color, stars, art, or even new information. To let in more light, pupils enlarge. However, they also show how closely seeing and feeling are related, reflecting an inner brightness that is a biological echo of attention itself. Your brain creates the opposing hue after you stare at one. Fix your sight on a red square for a time, then change your eyes to a white surface. A spectral green form will emerge. We refer to this illusion as an afterimage, and it occurs as a result of overstimulation wearing down your cone cells, which are in charge of color vision. Their opposite color receptors, in this case green, fire more intensely when they are at rest, producing a phantom hue. The same is true for black and white and blue and yellow. The color system in your brain interprets light in pairs and is based on contrast rather than absolute tones. This is why complementary colors feel so bright together. Your visual circuitry gets excited on opposing sides by them. We are reminded by the afterimage that vision is not fixed. It is dynamic, self-correcting, and constantly readjusting equilibrium. It is not a trick what you see when the light goes out. It is the residual recollection of contrast in your brain. The world painted from within. Light doesn't have color. It is produced by your brain. The outside world is devoid of color. It is a perception produced by your brain's interpretation of wavelengths rather than a characteristic of light itself. Every color is present simultaneously in sunlight. Invisible until it collides with matter, pure energy reflects differently from every surface. These wavelengths are transformed into electrical signals by your eyes, which are then translated into red, blue, or green feelings by your brain. Not all strawberries are red. It reflects light at a wavelength that your brain perceives as such. Both color and those wavelengths disappear in darkness. An internal code, a projection created inside your mind, is what you perceive as the vibrant palette of reality. Light is defined by physicists as vibration, and it's called emotion by energy artists. Actually, it's both. Color serves as the interface between perception and physics, a tacit understanding between the internal and external worlds. Some people may see millions more colors because they have an extra cone type. With 3 cone types tuned to red, green, and blue, the majority of humans are trichromats. However, a small percentage of women, possibly 1 in 200, have a 4th cone, which allows them to have a wider variety of colors than the rest of us can even fathom. Tetrachromacy is a condition that allows one to perceive up to 100 million different colors. Gold or pink undertones may be concealed on a beige wall. Unseen gradations may shimmer in a sunset. It is interesting to note that tetrachromats are not always aware of their differences. The world just appears normal to them. It's the rest of us who seem colorblind. The brain still chooses what to highlight, even though their eyes are taking in more information. This finding highlights the true subjectivity of vision. Biology filters reality. Someone out there notices nuances in the sky that neither you nor I can even identify. On average, men perceive the world as being darker than women do. According to studies, men and women frequently have somewhat differing perceptions of color and light. Men's eyes typically need a little bit more brightness to see the same shade as clearly. Differences in the X chromosome, which contains numerous genes linked to color-sensitive cones, could be the cause of this. Sometimes, women with 2 X chromosomes have better color discrimination, particularly in the red-orange spectrum. On the other hand, men are more likely to have minor color blindness, especially when it comes to reds and greens. In day-to-day living, these minor differences are frequently overlooked. However, they serve as a reminder that perception is very subjective. Even among different people may have different perceptions of the same sunset. The outside world never changes. What differs is the light in each eye. We live in different realities. Each of us perceives a little different one, subtly influenced by biology. Infrared light is visible to goldfish. The unassuming goldfish sees a universe that is invisible to the naked eye. Both ultraviolet and infrared wavelengths that extend past the visible spectrum can be detected by its eyes. Goldfish can navigate and identify predators thanks to their infrared sensitivity, which allows them to detect the subtle warmth of sunshine filtered through murky water. On the other hand, ultraviolet perception accentuates contrast and makes visible reflections that are otherwise undetectable. Goldfish vision is extremely adaptable due to its wide spectral range, adaptable to changing water depth and clarity. Infrared and ultraviolet are just ideas to humans. To see what our eyes cannot, we create cameras. For a goldfish, however, it is just the way things are. There is more knowledge in every gleam of light. There are hidden colors in every wave. To them, the pond, which appears brown and still to us, shimmers with color and warmth. A reminder that entire dimensions of sight can be invisible, even in familiar settings. Certain frogs can distinguish between day and night by using light-sensitive chemicals on their skin. Ancient amphibians may have detected light via their skin long before they could see with their eyes, and some frogs still do now. They have photoreceptive molecules embedded in their skin that resemble those found in eyes. Even when covered in mud or resting underwater, frogs can detect changes in daylight and shade thanks to their dermal photosensors, which are tuned to brightness rather than image. It aids in controlling their internal clocks, directing when they should sing, hunt, or hide. In certain species, the pineal gland on top of the head senses the intensity of light, functioning as a third eye. Seeing images is not the goal of this scattered style of vision. It's about sensing the sun's and moon's rhythm. Frogs live in harmony with the light cycles that form their wetlands through their skin. With the gentle pulsation of the Earth's illumination, their songs rose and fell. Some shrimp punch so quickly that they produce light flashes. One of the most formidable attackers in the ocean, the mantis shrimp, is already well known for its remarkable vision. It can accelerate faster than a bullet with its raptorial claw, reaching such high speeds that it produces a cavitation bubble, a pocket of vacuum that bursts with explosive power. Sonoluminescence is the term for the explosion of light, heat, and sound that occurs when the bubble bursts. The temperature within that brief burst can be comparable to that of the sun's surface. In actuality, the shrimp generates light only through impact. The impact kills the victim instantly with a pressure wave. It is a small star that was born underwater, according to physics. Few animals are so adept at combining beauty and brutality. A being that sees and produces light in ways that are incomprehensible to humans. The mantis shrimp is a little cosmic event and a predator in the reef's darkness. Time is a feeling as well, and it has the ability to expand and contract. Although time seems to be continuous, your brain interprets it as relative, elastic, and highly subjective, just like every other sense. Neural processing quickens in times of danger or excitement, giving the impression that time is moving slowly. When routine is tranquil, the reverse occurs. Unnoticed, time passes. In order to compare the speed of sensory input to memory, the brain uses networks that measure change rather than seconds. Time feels longer because of novelty. While repetition leaves fewer mental traces, new encounters fill perception with new information. The rhythm of time can be changed even by temperature, emotion, and heartbeat. The minutes vanish completely in states of intense meditation or exhaustion. Time does not exist outside of you. Your brain continuously creates it. It's as flexible and adaptive as color or music. Your entire existence is a sensory illusion of time, a tide of consciousness that flows through you personally. Time can seem to slow down when you're afraid. Many people say that time stretches after extreme panic, falls, accidents, or near misses. Every moment seems extended, paused, and somewhat dreamy. It was once believed by scientists that the brain accelerated like a high-speed camera. However, experiments point to a more nuanced reality. Emotion changes perception, not memory. The amygdala records details more densely than usual when under stress because it floods the body with adrenaline and attention. Those vivid recollections seem to have happened more slowly when recalled. The mind uses the feeling of slow time to acknowledge the amount of information it has taken in within a heartbeat. Our predecessors were able to react, make decisions, and retain information thanks to their elastic sense of duration, which helped them withstand danger. It serves as a reminder that time is not constant. It conforms to the pulse of the heart that measures emotion by squeezing and stretching. Events can be predicted by your brain before you are aware of them. Your experiences are all a little bit delayed, the outcome of processing time. However, your brain makes up for this by anticipating what will happen next, which makes perception seem immediate. Because of how well this prediction system works, you frequently react before consciousness does. Neurons in experiments basically predict the future by firing milliseconds before anticipated sensory input. It's how you play music, catch a ball, or complete a phrase. The brain is constantly modeling the world, making predictions and fixing mistakes as they happen. You sense a malfunction in the reality when those predictions don't come true, like in illusions or surprises. In a chaotic setting, this ongoing forecasting provides stability and saves energy. Your senses anticipate reality rather than just receiving it. A veil of expectation envelops every sound, movement, and moment you experience. The brain's silent effort to live 1 second ahead of schedule. Your brain's processing delays cause you to experience the present a little bit in the past. A fraction of a second ago, what you consider to be now already occurred. The collection of information by your senses, its transformation into brain impulses, and its delivery to consciousness all require time. Your eyes receive light nearly quickly, but your brain takes longer to process it, combining touch, hearing, and vision into a cohesive image. Your mind stitches the past into what seems to be the present instant, avoiding confusion by blending the delay into a smooth present. This time, the illusion maintains your composure and coordination. The universe would stutter like a broken film reel without it. In a manner, you are constantly living a little bit behind the actual present, in recollection. However, because we all experience this delay, we travel through time together without realizing that every moment we refer to as the present is actually a lovely reflection of the past. Not just sleep is impacted by jet lag, it also alters your body's internal sense of time. The suprachiasmatic nucleus, a group of neurons in the brain, is the master clock that controls your body. It controls hormone release, metabolism, and temperature by coordinating with light and dark. Jet lag is caused by this rhythm becoming out of tune with local daylight when you switch time zones. It's psychological dissonance, not just fatigue. When daylight comes, your organs continue to perceive it as nighttime. Even the timing of digestion, attention, and coordination is off until the clock is reset. The best indicator for recalibration is light. The cycle is gradually shifted back by exposure at the appropriate times. Some animals, such as migratory birds, have exceptionally flexible circadian clocks that allow them to adapt more readily. Over time, humans also adapt. However, your body vacillates between time periods for a few days. It's half the new world and half the old. A reminder that light is necessary for even our internal time to find its rhythm. You have a somewhat magnetic sense of direction. Humans may have a weak magnetic sense, but it is subtle. People sitting in the dark in controlled experiments automatically responded to variations in the Earth's magnetic field. Despite their inability to consciously notice it, their brainwaves changed as the field spun. This implies that we contain magnetite crystals, which are microscopic iron-based particles that are sensitive to geomagnetic forces and resemble those seen in sea turtles and migratory birds. Even though our primary means of navigation are sight and memory, remnants of this antiquated compass may still have an impact on spatial orientation. Some people get hunches regarding direction that turn out to be right. If verified, it would indicate that humans and the first life forms that oriented toward magnetic poles share an ancestral sense. Maybe a silent compass still rotates in the depths of our cells, echoing evolution and pointing home rather than north or south. Certain human and bird molecules may be able to sense the Earth's magnetic field. Cryptochrome is a light-sensitive chemical found in the eyes of migrating birds and likely humans. It creates paired electrons when exposed to blue light, and the Earth's magnetic field affects their spins. As a result, a visual pattern that resembles a dim compass painted across the globe covers their field of vision. Birds can perceive north and south as gradients of light intensity, giving them the ability to truly see direction. Although it appears to be dormant or weak, some research indicates that humans also have cryptochrome in their retinas. We might have had a sixth sense of orientation, which would have allowed us to navigate without the use of maps or stars if it had been awakened. Our biology still remembers that magnetism flows through us, constant but invisible. This molecular compass is a silent wonder for animals that migrate across continents, directing flight patterns that follow invisible lines etched into the Earth's core structure. Salmon uses the planet's magnetic map to find his way home. Salmon return to their birth river after spending years in the open ocean, often traveling thousands of miles. They accomplish this by reading the coordinates of the Earth's magnetic field using an integrated compass. Salmon imprint early in life, and the magnetic signature of each river mouth varies somewhat. As they get older, they use those indicators to guide them, shifting their routes as though they were following invisible lines on a map. By seeing juvenile fish nurtured in magnetic fields that resembled far-off places, scientists were able to verify this. They aligned themselves with their home stream's equivalent direction. Driven by quantum-level sensitivity to the planet's magnetic field, it is an ancient mode of navigation that predates both roads and stars. Salmon use the Earth's magnetic pulse to find their way home in the quiet depths of the ocean, where light cannot lead them. As they fly, pigeons are able to detect minute variations in air pressure. Because of their exceptional orienting skills, pigeons can navigate across new areas even when they are lost. Their capacity to detect even the smallest changes in atmospheric pressure, known as barometer sensitivity, is part of their secret. They can determine position and distance when flying thanks to unique receptors in their middle ears that detect changes in weather and altitude. When paired with visual and magnetic clues, this produces a multisensory world map. By identifying recognizable air patterns associated with particular locales, pigeons may even be able to retain pressure landmarks. Their sensitivity alerts them to impending storms long before the sky grows gloomy. They can read the atmosphere's invisible texture thanks to this secret sense that puts them in intimate contact with the living air. What appears to be instinct is actually a sophisticated combination of perception and physics, a body that was attuned to the wind's voice. Sharks use their paws on their snouts to perceive electric fields. Every living organism emits a weak electric signal that is produced by the ion mobility within its cells. Through specialized pores called ampullae of Lorenzini that are grouped around their snouts, sharks are able to perceive these invisible fields. Every pore leads to a gel-filled canal that provides sensory cells with electrical input. This enables sharks to use Earth's magnetic field, which creates mild electric currents in salt water, to navigate or detect prey concealed beneath the sand. They are really sensitive. Even voltages as low as a billionth of a volt can be detected by them. A shark perceives the ocean as a network of delicate pulses and currents, akin to unseen lightning. They can detect prey using their senses of sight and smell, but electricity allows them to be more precise. Sharks, in a sense, inhabit two worlds: the sea that is visible to us and the invisible ocean of energy that shimmers beneath all life's movements. Platypus hunt by spotting their prey's electrical impulses. The platypus conceals one of nature's most amazing senses behind its duck-like bill and peculiarities. Thousands of electrosensors that can pick up the minuscule electrical impulses generated by worm, crustacean, and insect muscles are located beneath the soft surface of its bill. The platypus uses just this electric sense to guide itself while it forages in muddy riverbeds, closing its eyes, ears, and nostrils. A three-dimensional map of undersea prey is produced by the interaction of mechanosensors and electroreceptors. In addition to dolphins, the platypus is one of the few animals with electroreception. What appears to be a clumsy creature is actually a magnificent hunter who can read the subtle hum of life in the dark. Both sight and hearing are optional for the platypus. The planet communicates through currents and pulses, a coded electrical language that permeates the water. Some fish use electric pulses to communicate. Some fish in the Amazon's black rivers communicate via electrical bursts. Weak electric fields are produced by species such as elephant nose fish and electric fish, which interact with other fish and surrounding objects. They convey messages of identity, territory, and courtship by modifying these signals, changing their frequency, rhythm, and strength. They see the murky water to be alive with quiet dialogue. Individuals can identify each other by their distinct electric signatures, and each species has its own dialect of pulses. In order to prevent interference, some even modify their signals, resulting in a continuously changing chorus of invisible communication. It took centuries for humans to create the radio. These fish have long since evolved on their own. For them, electricity represents more than simply power. It's the language. Instead of light, their world glistens with rhythm, a subdued electric hum that binds all living things together. Touch has the ability to alter a plant's growth pattern. Plants are extremely responsive to touch, despite having neither muscles nor nerves. A vine curls and climbs when it brushes up against a nearby branch. A leaf's cells undergo tiny alterations as it is rubbed or agitated by the wind. Thigmise is a phenomenon that enables plants to change their morphology in response to their surroundings. When handled frequently, some develop thicker stems that become more resilient to stress. Others reroute growth in the direction of light or stability. Within minutes, even a brief touch can change the expression of certain genes. One of nature's most exquisite reactions is triggered when the delicate hairs of a Venus flytrap pick up only one brush from an insect. It appears that plants do more than just grow passively. They experience their surroundings slowly. Every raindrop, wind, and grazing animal creates a mark. They reach out to the world in their own modest way, responsibly and attentively to all life's nuances. Insect sound vibrations appear to be audible to trees. Although it may sound poetic, there is evidence that it is indeed accurate. Despite the absence of actual insects, scientists found that when they played recordings of caterpillars chewing leaves on specific trees, the plant's chemical defenses rose. It only took vibrations to elicit a reaction. By releasing bitter compounds or using airborne chemicals to notify other plants, trees may recognize the distinct frequencies of threats, like chewing or buzzing, and prepare for assault. They also appear to be able to discriminate between important and innocuous sounds, like wind. This vibration sensitivity serves as an imperceptible yet powerful early warning mechanism. Then, the woodland is everything but quiet. It hums with the language of motion and pressure waves. The trees themselves may feel, rather than hear, every rustle, hum, and footfall. Imagine the trees silently, continuously, and acutely aware when the wind passes through a forest the next time. Even without eyes, bacteria are able to detect light. Light detection was previously possible for single-cell bacteria even before eyes emerged. They accomplish this by directing movement toward or away from brightness via photoreceptive proteins, which alter form in response to photon exposure. Through their spherical structures, certain cyanobacteria can even concentrate light, functioning as small lenses and a rudimentary form of eyesight. They can navigate, photosynthesize, and stay away from dangerous radiation because of this skill. Bacteria perceive light as temperature or direction, and they perceive the world as gradients of energy. All subsequent eyes were descended from these primitive photosensors. Long before animals could see, life was already detecting light and dark, marking the limits of day and night, from the compound eyes of insects to the lenses of mammals. Bacteria were the first light-seers in the universe, floating particles that discovered how to follow the sun's light. You can taste what you eat thanks to senses in your gut. The tongue is only one part of taste. Enteroendocrine cells are specialized cells that function as covert taste receptors deep throughout your intestines. As food passes through, they pick up on carbohydrates, fats, and amino acids, which sets off hormonal reactions that regulate appetite and digestion. Your body tastes nutrients twice because these gut sensors even make use of some of the same chemical receptors as your tongue, both silently in the gut and consciously in the mouth. These cells may trigger the release of insulin in response to the perception of sweetness or bitterness. In order to guard against toxins, they can slow down digestion. Unbeknownst to you, this inner taste network aids in balancing nutrition, energy, and cravings. Researchers now think that these gut-based senses create what some refer to as the second brain, which is directly connected to the brain via the vagus nerve. Essentially, your body has a silent intelligence operating beneath your conscious awareness, knowing what it is ingesting before you do. The heart's tiny nerve system senses things in real time. The heart is more than just a pump. It is a sensitive organ that can process information without the brain's help, thanks to its own network of neurons, which numbers around 40,000. This heart-brain keeps an eye on rhythm, chemistry, and pressure, modifying each beat in reaction to surroundings and feelings. It accelerates before you realize it when you're anxious. It slows as though it's exhaling when it's calm. The heart sends signals upward that affect emotion, judgment, and even memory. Synchronous cardiac beats have been shown to promote emotional coherence and stability. Neuroscience now suggests that the concept of intuition being something felt in the heart, which has long been used by several cultures, may have some validity. The heart responds to the physiologic and emotional currents that flow through it moment by moment, listening as much as it beats. It doesn't use words to think. It has a beat to it. Emotions are odorous. Sadness, joy, and fear all smell different. Emotion is reflected in the invisible chemical traces found in human perspiration. In controlled experiments, participants who breathed in the aroma of fear-based sweat were more alert, whereas those who breathed in happy sweat automatically grinned more. These emotional odors contain substances that discreetly convey mood, such as stress hormones or metabolites of adrenaline. Even though we no longer need scent to survive like animals do, our bodies nevertheless send out these signals, emotional hints that others can pick up on without our knowledge. The nose sends signals straight to the emotional parts of the brain, avoiding the rational error. In the past, groups were able to detect danger before they could see it, thanks to this ancient communication. Due in part to invisible chemistry, a room can nonetheless feel warm or tense. Scent, the body's oldest and most subdued language of empathy and instinct, is another way we read one another. Dogs are able to sniff illnesses long before symptoms show up. The biological wonder that is a dog's nose is up to 100,000 times more sensitive than a human's. Dogs can detect trace compounds released by the body's chemistry, even at quantities as low as 1 part per trillion, thanks to their more than 300 million olfactory sensors. They can detect the distinct olfactory fingerprints of illnesses like cancer, diabetes, and viral infections before conventional diagnostics can, thanks to their supersensibility. By using their sense of smell, some trained canines have successfully identified blood sugar fluctuations or cancers that are hidden deep within the body. They detect metabolic byproducts, which are minute changes in chemistry that come with disease. They seem to be able to smell molecular imbalance. They see the world as a richly textured tapestry of meaning and aroma, identity, time, health, and emotion. Dogs travel through an invisible forest of scent, where even illness has its own scent, whereas humans are olfactory beings. It is possible to train bees to recognize the aroma of explosives. Honeybees' keen sense of smell allows them to detect chemical residues that are imperceptible to instruments. Researchers found that, like dogs, bees may be trained to link a particular scent with a reward. Bees are trained to expand their proboscis whenever they come into contact with the target fragrance by combining explosive fumes with a drop of sugar water. Explosives at concentrations as low as a few parts per trillion have been found in testing. Even smaller detectors employ sensors to track the responses of trained bees to air samples in tiny chambers. Bees only need light, warmth, and sweetness, no calibration, unlike machinery. Evolution gives them this capacity. Scent leads them to locate flowers and nectar that are miles distant in the natural world. Humanity merely appropriated that gift, turning the pollinators' sensitive noses into protective instruments. The bee's silent sensory genius is still useful in security and science. As you become older, your sense of smell deteriorates, particularly for some scents. The number and reactivity of the olfactory neurons that smell fragrance decrease over time. Presbyopia is the term for this progressive deterioration that almost everyone experiences after middle age. Sharper scents like vinegar or smoke last longer, while other scents, especially sweet or flowery ones, disappear fastest. It's not merely a sensory loss. Since smell is closely related to pleasure and memory, it can have an impact on appetite, memory, and emotional attachment. However, the brain adjusts, focusing more on familiar sensations and using memory to fill in the gaps. It's interesting to note that, similar to how exercise maintains muscle, regular exposure to a variety of odors may reduce the decline. Even some sensitivity can be restored with smell training, which involves purposefully breathing various aromas every day. The scent of the world fades with age, yet nostalgia is heightened. Decades can pass between waning senses and unwavering feeling when a single scent is recalled. Some people are able to detect the scent of rain before it falls. Petrichor is the distinct earthy scent that permeates the air prior to a rain. Plant oils and a substance called geosmin, which is made by microorganisms in the ground, are released when rain falls on dry soil. At remarkably low concentrations, a few parts per trillion, some people are able to detect geosmin. Even before the rain starts, these airborne molecules reach the nose as humidity increases or the first drops fall. This sensitivity might have been promoted by evolution. Early people were able to plan for shelter or travel when they detected impending rain. Many people associate the fragrance with solace and rejuvenation. The planet is purifying itself. There is more to the smell of rain than mere chemistry. It's longing, recollection, and the silent acceptance of change. You can feel a conversation between water, soil, and life itself when you breathe in that earthy sweetness. The world breathing before the storm hits. Unconsciously, people may select partners based on how well they smell. Research indicates that smell has a surprising effect on attraction. People appear to be attracted to the natural body odor of people with different immune system genes, especially those in a group known as the MHC complex, subconsciously. By enhancing immunological responses, this genetic variation fortifies possible progeny. The scent of genetically compatible mates was consistently chosen by participants in studies when they were exposed to warm t-shirts. Although it may be concealed by cleansers and perfumes, body odor conveys biological signals of health and fertility. One person's favorite scent may be neutral or disagreeable to another. It's not a coincidence, it's chemistry. Your subconscious could lead you to someone whose scent seems uncanny, even in a busy space. A subtle truth is whispered by your nose beneath the veneer of love and reason. Sometimes compatibility is felt before it is ever observed. Just like your DNA, your body odor is distinct. Each person has a unique smell signature that is influenced by their nutrition, hormones, heredity, and even the bacteria that live on their skin. Although they never smell exactly the same, identical twins do smell more alike than strangers. The primary cause of this individuality is the major histocompatibility complex, the same gene group that affects both subtle attraction and immunological function. Humans are unconsciously aware of these indications, but dogs and other animals use them to recognize people. Because our individual scents are so consistent, researchers have been able to accurately identify people based on their odor profiles. It can even be momentarily changed by feelings like stress or joy. Everywhere you go, an invisible chemical fingerprint is left behind. On textiles, in the air, and on people's skin. Without using words, your aroma conveys your tale. Every breath and wind that passes you carries a molecular autobiography. Slowly decomposing molecules are the source of the smell of old paper or a fresh book. It's chemistry in slow motion, the smell of old books, that cozy, nostalgic library air. Compounds like cellulose and lignin found in paper and ink decompose over decades to produce aromatic molecules like benzaldehyde and vanillin. The sweet, reassuring scent of old books comes from the same ingredients that are present in almond and vanilla oils. Modern printing inks, glues, and varnishes, on the other hand, release volatile organic compounds that eventually fade, which is the source of the new book scent. Together, these fragrances convey the aging of materials and the silent oxidation of plant fiber, wood, and time. For readers, that scent becomes inextricably linked to imagination and memory, a sensory bookmark that links the present and the past. In a sense, every library is alive, with a fusion of chemistry and history gently emerging from the pages of human intellect. Space smells strongly like charred meat and seared metal. The same phenomenon is frequently mentioned by astronauts coming back from spacewalks, a persistent smell on their suits and gear. It is said to have a metallic, smoky, and faintly sweet flavor that is similar to charred meat or hot metal. The smell is produced when high-energy particles interact with spaceship materials, forming reactive chemicals that adhere to surfaces rather than existing in the vacuum of space itself. These substances oxidize and release the space scent when astronauts return to the airlock. It's the odor of ozone, irradiated dust, and atomic reactions, the remains of cosmic energy. Some claim it smells like adventure, while others think it smells like explosions or welding fumes. It's like the scent of matter and starlight coming together. Everything that ventures into the void of the universe bears the imprint of the universe. Space has a smell, the charred whisper of creation itself, even when there is no sound. Some people experience synesthesia, or the ability to see colors when they listen to music. People who have chromesthesia experience unusual intertwining of the senses. They experience intense flashes of color in their heads when they hear sounds, particularly music. A cello may glow deep blue, a trumpet may flash gold, and a voice may be delicate, rose, or silver. Like the sounds themselves, these colors come to them unconsciously. Everybody has different associations. Middle C may constantly flash green for one person and scarlet for another. Visual and auditory areas of the brain work together to combine perception into a single multisensory experience, according to brain imaging. This ability has been described by numerous artists and composers throughout history, ranging from Scriabin to Pharrell Williams. Synesthesia demonstrates the true flexibility of the human mind. It is a living network of entwined perceptions rather than a collection of distinct senses. Perception becomes limitless as sound transforms into color, a subdued reminder that there is always more to reality than we realize. Some people experience textures when they hear specific sounds. Certain synesthetes are unable to perceive color in sound, they sense it. A trumpet blare may feel harsh, metallic, or abrasive, yet a piano note may feel like silk against flesh. Auditory tactile synesthesia is a rare condition that directly connects touch and hearing. The sensory areas of the brain overlap. Thus, tactile circuits are stimulated by sound vibrations. The world comes to life with texture for those who experience it. Voices are grainy. Wind chimes have a smooth texture. Rain against a window makes fabric-like ripples on the skin. The phenomenon demonstrates that there are no rigid routes for perception. One sense can bleed into another in this ever-expanding spectrum. We all have echoes of this, whether it's nails on a chalkboard that make your skin crawl, or a deep bass you feel in your chest. Simply said, synesthesia magnifies the connections that are concealed and only partially visible to the rest of us. Some people have the ability to taste emotions or smell sounds. The senses intersect in the most unusual ways in the rarest types of synesthesia. Some see emotions like joy or sadness as separate flavors, or they perceive the sound of a bell. Laughter in a minor key may smell like citrus or taste unpleasant. These connections are ingrained in the brain's sensory map and are automatic and reliable. They happen as a result of abnormally strong brain connections between the areas in charge of processing various senses. The overlap is confirmed by brain scans, but it may sound fanciful. Olfactory or gustatory regions become active in response to sound. The world is packed with invisible correspondences for synesthetes. Music turns into a scent. Flavor is derived from memory. In order to comprehend how the brain unifies senses into a single, coherent experience for all of us, scientists are researching them. There is a truth about us in their perception. The senses are strings of the same enormous resonant chord rather than distinct instruments. The brain is capable of self-rewiring. Being blind can improve hearing. The brain doesn't empty itself when a person's senses wane. It takes it back. The visual cortex frequently repurposes itself to improve memory, touch, and hearing in blind people. Because of their neuroplasticity, they are able to pick up on small textures or sounds that sighted individuals would overlook. Their brains effectively convert sight into sound or touch by activating visual regions when processing echoes or braille, according to MRI scans. Sensory zones aren't fixed, as this rewiring shows. They are adaptable networks that have been molded by experience and necessity. The brain is an artist of its own design, as evidenced by the way deprivation leads to adaptation. The world doesn't get any smaller for people who lose their vision. It transforms. Light is replaced by vibration, sound, and space, creating a new awareness. The blind brain creates an image from every soft step or far-off echo, demonstrating that vision is never constrained, only altered. Humans can learn to echolocate by listening for sound reflections. Although bats and dolphins are the most well-known users of echolocation, humans are also capable of learning a form of it. Some blind people navigate by using their tongues to make gentle clicking sounds and deciphering the echoes that return. They are able to perceive walls, doorways, trees, and even moving objects because their brains grow exquisitely sensitive to the way sound reflects off surfaces over time. According to studies, during this process, their visual brain becomes active, seemingly transforming echoes into mental images. People can use reflected sound alone to determine size, texture, and distance with experience. Superhuman hearing is not necessary for the skill. Attention enhances its ability to recognize patterns. This capability demonstrates the brain's adaptability. It transforms sound into a new form of vision when it is blinded. Echolocators characterize their environment in the dark as a panorama of reverberating whispers, a world brought in by vibration and air rather than as complete darkness. Those who are born blind frequently acquire exceptional spatial awareness. It may seem impossible to navigate without sight. Nonetheless, a lot of blind people navigate the world with incredible ease. Their brains turn touch and sound into a living mental geometry by mapping space using echoes, airflow, and minute pressure changes. They use rhythmic signals, such as the click of a cane, the hum of a hallway, or the warmth of sunlight on one side of their face to help them remember their beginnings. Their hippocampus, the brain's navigation center, can become even more active than that of sighted people, according to MRI research. This improved spatial awareness is more than just a form of compensation. It's adaptation-based mastery. Open areas and barriers are frequently described by blind travelers as feelings of presence rather than sight. They are spatially oriented rather than visually oriented. It appears that the brain can comprehend the world without the use of eyes. It merely discovers fresh methods to break through quiet. Information from all of your senses is continuously combined by your brain to create a single, cohesive universe. Your brain receives billions of pieces of sensory information every second. Chemical traces, vibrations, photons, touches, and motions. But you never feel overpowered. Rather, your brain combines all of these pieces into a single, cohesive experience through an incredible work of synthesis. You no longer experience warmth, scent, and bitterness as distinct sensations when drinking tea. They combine to form a single, cohesive perception. Multisensory integration is the term for this merger, which maintains the smoothness of reality. In order to determine which sense is most trustworthy at any given moment, the brain continuously cross-checks inputs. Your eyes fill in the gaps when your eyesight deteriorates, and your hearing improves when sound is hazy. Your brain constructs a whole world from fragments of information every second, a flowing appearance of wholeness and stability. This constant blending, the artistic symphony of all your senses singing in time, is what you call reality. Your brain can be tricked into thinking you're somewhere else using virtual reality. The difference between believable simulation and actual experience is not very clear to your brain. Virtual reality capitalizes on this by perfectly coordinating motion, sound, and visual signals such that your brain perceives the illusion as genuine. Your body responds to height, movement, and cliffs as though they were real, even when you are aware that you are in a secure space. Logic is subordinated to sensory facts. Your stomach turns over, your heart rate increases, and your balance changes. This is due to the fact that perception is based on coherence rather than truth. The brain believes if the senses are in agreement. Researchers in virtual reality use this knowledge to teach surgeons, treat phobias, and study empathy by letting users see viewpoints that are very different from their own. It serves as a reminder that your mental image of a location is dynamic and is created moment by moment. It turns out that with sufficient sensory persuasion, reality may be rewritten. When sound and sight clash, your brain chooses the most likely option. You hear the puppet speak when you see a ventriloquist, but you know it's not possible. The reason for this illusion is because your brain gives priority to the sense that looks the most reliable. Usually, vision is dominant. Thus, the vocal sound is transferred to the moving mouth. As you can see, the ventriloquist effect is one of the numerous instances of sensory compromise. It is strongly demonstrated by the well-known McGurk effect. Your brain creates a compromise if you hear bar, but see someone's lips produce gar, dar. What fits best is what you see, not what is there. Reality is continuously negotiated by the senses, which bend and combine it into coherence. It's efficiency, not dishonesty. Understanding, not precision, is the aim of your brain. And you come to understand that reality is something your mind creates, favoring harmony over contradiction in the delicate dance between your sight and ears. A trick of sensory mismatch allows you to perceive motion even while you are motionless. You might think you're moving when you're sitting in a stationary car and the car next to you starts rolling. This feeling, known as vection, results from a clash between balance and vision. Your vestibular system tells you that you are motionless, but your eyes tell you otherwise. By accepting the stronger signal, the one from sight, the brain resolves the contradiction. As a result, there is a realistic appearance of movement, complete with acceleration or swaying feelings. People may experience motion when still thanks to the same technology that drives flight simulators and virtual rides. These discrepancies highlight our reliance on multisensory agreement. The body is at the right place. It's doing its best to interpret the evidence. There is invisible movement in every minute of silence. Your brain has the ability to make the environment move silently around you, even when you don't move an inch. Your brain is predicting reality rather than merely recording it, which is why illusions occur. Your senses foresee information rather than just gathering it. The brain is a machine that makes predictions all the time, modifying perception to fit expectations. When the forecasts are overestimated, illusions arise. People appear to grow or shrink in the Ames room because the brain interprets the walls as square. False color or motion patterns are examples of optical illusions that endure because your mind uses its best model of the world to fill in the blanks. Usually, this tactic works perfectly. It makes perception instantaneous and conserves energy. However, you get a glimpse of the mechanisms underlying reality when the prediction is incorrect. Your experience of the world is not unprocessed data. It is a continuously updated simulation that has been honed by habit, memory, and attention. Illusions don't demonstrate how readily you can be duped. They demonstrate how strongly your brain tries to comprehend. You only ever view the world as your mind imagines it to be, never as it actually is. Although pain is genuine, in an emergency, your brain can completely shut it off. People frequently describe not feeling any pain from even serious injuries during emergencies. When the brain releases endorphins and endocannabinoids, which are natural compounds that reduce pain and improve attention, the body experiences stress-induced analgesia. This response was developed by evolution to aid in our survival. While avoiding danger, there is no time to process pain. Athletes, soldiers, and accident victims frequently talk about how they didn't realize they were hurt until safety returned. There was still suffering. There was a delay. The messages are sometimes allowed to get through with full intensity if the brain determines that the threat has passed. In essence, pain is a brain-made decision that strikes a balance between performance and protection, rather than a direct signal from the body. It serves as a reminder that the mind quietly controls even our most basic emotions, numbing them when necessary for survival. Your senses can literally be altered by the placebo effect. Your brain starts to make things happen when you think they will benefit you. There is more to the placebo effect than merely psychology. Perception, pain levels, and even sensory processing can all be affected. Individuals who take painkillers without active ingredients exhibit increased endorphin release and decreased activity in the brain areas related to pain. It has been demonstrated that placebos alter the way that wine tastes, loud noises feel, and even how warm the body feels. Because the brain's predictive mechanism modifies reality depending on beliefs, expectation modifies experience. Perception is not entirely passive, as demonstrated by the placebo effect. It involves participation. The world is not just something you register. Under the direction of trust and expectation, you assist in building it. In a way, your imagination alone may manipulate your senses. Evidence that one of the body's most powerful senses is belief itself. Some memories have sensory tags attached to them that come back to life when you dream. When you dream, your brain uses stored bits of sound, texture, and sight to revisit the sensory landscapes of your life, not in an abstract way. These patterns of brain activity that connect memories to particular sensations are known to neuroscientists as sensory tags. Emotion and location are encoded in the smell of rain, the sound of laughter, and the hue of a specific sunset. These tags reappear and recombine into dream imagery while you sleep, as the brain reorganizes memories. Your sensory cortex is partially engaged in dreams, reproducing details from waking life, which is why they frequently feel remarkably genuine, even when they are absurd. Occasionally, a faraway sound or the subtle scent of anything close to your bed can blend in perfectly with the rest of your dream. Perception, imagination, and memory are all hazy. When you sleep, your senses are not at rest. As they drift, they piece together reality in the dark by recalling the environment through light and echoes. Your sense of taste varies during the day based on your body's circadian rhythm, which is the internal clock that controls hormone production, metabolism, and sleep. Your tongue is more sensitive to sweetness and less sensitive to bitterness in the morning. The pattern frequently flips by nightfall. These changes most likely occur to maximize energy intake, preventing extra calories at night and causing sugar cravings when you wake up. Hourly variations in temperature and salivary chemistry also subtly affect the intensity of flavor. This explains why dessert could feel richer at night, or why coffee tastes different in the morning than it does after dinner. This information is occasionally used by chefs and sommeliers to schedule tastings for optimal subtlety. It appears that flavor rides on the body, which is a live tide of chemistry. Not simply what you eat, but also when your senses awaken to taste it, filters every meal you consume over time. Before a storm, your body can detect changes in air pressure. Before the weather changes, many people experience a heaviness or discomfort, a faint sensation of the barometric pressure drop. As the atmosphere gets lighter, the body's tissues, particularly those in the joints and sinuses, respond to these changes in air pressure by slightly expanding. Sensitive people may feel uncomfortable or exhausted by this, frequently before clouds show up. The skin and inner ear sense the change, even if one is not aware of it, and it affects circulation and balance. Animals have a keen awareness of this. Low-lying birds roost, dogs become agitated, fish go farther. This barometric sensitivity is still present in humans. It helped our ancestors foresee storms and seek cover in advance. Your body may already be anticipating what's going to happen when the air gets thicker and the wind holds its breath. A silent conversation between the sky and the flesh that serves as a reminder that your senses are still tuned in to the global weather. Science still doesn't know how, but you can feel someone staring at you. Researchers have been baffled by that eerie sense of being watched for decades. Despite not being able to see who is staring, several investigations indicate that humans can detect gaze direction with very high accuracy. The most widely accepted idea is that the brain processes small stimuli, like sounds, heat, or changes in air pressure, subconsciously. Some believe it stems from evolutionary vigilance. Those who were able to see them survived rivals and predators. Nevertheless, under strictly regulated circumstances, the effect endures, suggesting something more profound. It's possible that our brains have specific networks for identifying attention itself, sensitive to the emotional impact of being watched. Your mind may be combining innumerable tiny cues into a single intuitive conclusion to cause the impression. The sensation is genuine enough to produce physiological reactions, regardless of its cause. Awareness and attentiveness of heart rate. Perhaps the body just recognizes that it has become the focus of someone else's attention before the eyes do. Certain individuals are able to sense the changes in their joints. Many people with arthritis or chronic injuries describe pains prior to REM, and science supports this myth. Nerves can indicate discomfort when barometric pressure changes because they can subtly change joint fluid and tissue. Reduced pressure causes tissue to gradually expand, making irritated areas more sensitive. Changes in temperature and humidity can amplify the impact, producing an internal weather forecast of sorts. While not everyone is aware of it, there are individuals who are frequently able to sense storms hours before they materialize. We are reminded by the phenomena that the sky is not separate from our bodies. They are flesh barometers that resonate with the unseen tides of the atmosphere. Every pain is a message encoded in bone and joint, a whisper of shifting air. We are not the only ones affected by the weather. It passes through us. A conversation between the changing pressure of the Earth's breath and human biology. The taste of food can be altered by sound. The same piece of chocolate was assessed differently by participants in a silent experiment based on background noise. Low-pitched tones made it feel more bitter, while high-pitched ones made it seem sweeter. Sonic seasoning is a cross-sensory phenomenon that demonstrates how hearing affects taste perception. In order to improve dining experiences, restaurants are now creating ambient soundscapes with deeper tones for savory dishes and delicate, bright music for desserts. The impact is quantifiable yet psychological. Expectation changes flavor, and sound changes expectation. Sound even affects crunchiness. When potato chips sound crisp, they appear fresher. Hearing and taste are automatically combined by your brain to create a single perception. Eating appears to be both gustatory and auditory. The fact that each bite includes both flavor and resonance demonstrates that the senses are not independent. You taste the music of the moment, not just the food. Color can affect a thing's smell or feel. Color gently influences how you perceive texture and scent. Compared to the same liquid in blue cups, people say that drinks in red cups are warmer, heavier, or sweeter. Green packaging conveys a sense of tranquility and naturalness, whereas yellow packaging can make food appear fresher. Color context even affects fragrances. When combined with pink, a neutral perfume may seem floral. When coupled with brown, it may seem woody. Smell and sight are not distinguished by the brain. It combines them to produce correlations that seem natural. Environmental factors most likely influenced the evolution of these cross-modal correspondences. While ruined food is bland and harsh, ripe fruit is sweet and vibrantly colored. Today, designers, cooks, and perfumers employ color to guide perception, using hue and light to evoke feelings. The reality is straightforward and peculiar. Your eyes have the power to alter the sensations of your hands and nose, combining them into a single emotive language of color. Without actually drinking coffee, the aroma of it might increase attentiveness. Coffee's scent alone has the power to activate the brain's arousal regions, boosting alertness and speeding up reaction times. According to studies, just breathing in the aroma stimulates areas linked to arousal and attentiveness. Despite not drinking any caffeine, pupils in one trial who were exposed to the fragrance of coffee did better on cognitive tests. Learned association appears to be the cause of the effect. The brain gradually connects the physiological energy of consuming it with its scent. The body gets ready for action when the fragrance turns into a signal. This is a potent form of sensory conditioning. Your mind reacts to meaning in addition to chemistry. Cues that arouse more than the senses include the gentle hum of the day beginning, the rustle of pages, and the scent of coffee at dawn. They reawaken memory, habit, and the faint sense of being alive again in motion. Frisson is the term for the sensory reaction that causes you to shiver when you hear certain sounds. You can get chills from a haunting voice, a beautiful harmony, or a sudden surge of music. Free songs are a phenomenon. It results from dopamine being released by the brain's reward system in reaction to emotional stress and astonishment. An unexpected crescendo, a key change, or a halt in music that defies your expectations causes your brain to explode with delight, converting emotion into bodily feeling. Poetry, music, movies, and even a lovely thought might elicit this response. Frisson is a physical echo of awe and a sensory reflection of everything. For a brief moment, the distinction between cognition and feeling blurs, the hairs stand up, and the breath catches. Your entire nervous system seems to be applauding something that your intellect is unable to express. The senses are emotional instruments tuned to the unseen frequency of meaning, as Frisson tells us. ASMR uses oral stimuli to produce actual bodily tingles. The little tingling feeling that many people experience when they hear quiet noises like whispering, tapping, or brushing is known as autonomous sensory meridian response, or ASMR. These inputs cause waves of calm that go down the spine from the scalp by activating neuronal circuits associated with pleasure and relaxation. According to brain scans, ASMR boosts activity in brain regions linked to bonding and emotional comfort, which are also active during intimate touch. Some people use it as a sleep aid. Some people use it as a kind of meditation. The impression depends on the closeness of the voice, the intimacy of detail, and hypersensitivity to little sounds. SMR provides a unique form of calm in a noisy environment. Perception itself became calming as attention slowed. It's the science of serenity cloaked in feeling. Evidence that our nervous system's innermost regions can be calmed by the smallest whisper. The subtle hum of your own body is audible even in silence. Most people start to hear a faint sound in complete silence, such as the hiss of blood passing past their ears, the heartbeat, or the sound of muscles tensing up. For living things, there is no such thing as true silence. Our bodies are moving symphonies. Because the brain anticipates environmental noise, anechoic chambers, rooms that absorb all exterior sound, often induce discomfort for guests. Without it, consciousness shifts inward, intensifying the rhythms of the body. The continuous mechanism of existence is what you hear when you are silent. It serves as a reminder that hearing is more than just exterior. It's also an internal perception. The hum of existence, continuous and little yet boundless in meaning, becomes heard when the world becomes still. Therefore, silence is not absence, it's closeness. The sound of life reminding you that you are deeply alive at all times. Your senses change as you sleep. To protect you while you sleep, your brain filters sounds differently. Your brain does not turn off your senses while you sleep. It modifies them. The auditory system is still somewhat functional, filtering out innocuous sounds while keeping an eye out for threats in the surroundings. Soft breathing, a fan, familiar sounds, and far-off traffic all fade into the background. You may be startled awake by unexpected or strange ones, such as a door creak. The thalamus, which serves as a sensory gatekeeper, is where this filtering takes place. Even the sensitivity to smells varies. While touch becomes muted during deep sleep, your nose becomes less receptive. However, sensory memory reactivates internally during dreams, reliving sensations in rich detail. Absence of senses is not sleep, it's sensory reorganization, a nightly rebalancing of the attentiveness of the mind. When you sleep, the world doesn't disappear. It falls silent, reorganized into rhythm and safety. Your body listens softly, protecting your sleep while letting your mind wander in tranquility through its own dream world. Your senses work together to create the symphony that is your view of reality. There is a magnificent orchestration behind every sound you hear, color you see, and breath you take. Your senses working together. Each moment, light, vibration, pressure, and chemistry converge into a single experience, the world as you perceive it. However, no two symphonies are alike. The notes are arranged uniquely in each brain due to biology, emotion, and memory. What you refer to as reality is a personal creation that is always evolving and adapting. The senses are more than just tools. They act as intermediaries between matter and meaning, transforming particles and waves into emotions and ideas. Your mind and body are combining information into music even as you listen. The very music of life. The harmony of perception that develops within you is the means by which the universe becomes self-aware. And the most exquisite truth is contained in that silent comprehension. The music that hums through reality is you. And now, let your consciousness rest while the last sounds of the voyage tonight fade. You have meandered through the silent wonders that mold your every moment of life. The warmth that turns into touch, the flash of light that becomes color, and the breath of air that turns into sound. Your senses are not straightforward tools. The fabric of reality is woven together by these strands. Intimate turning waves are the result of their translation of the invisible. Molecules and particles into experiences live poetry. Your body communicates with the cosmos through every sound you have ever heard, every flavor you have ever enjoyed, and every aroma that has ever brought you back to a particular experience. Those senses are still working gently as you lie motionless. The air surrounding you is sensed by your skin. You hear the silence in the room. Beneath the silence, your heartbeat whispers. The body is always perceiving. All it does is change its focus, becoming softer and more focused on the inner world. You can sense what perception really is in this state of tranquility. A symphony of meaning tempered by memory and emotion rather than a deluge of data. Life is not the only thing your brain records. Moment by moment, it transforms feeling into consciousness. As you sleep, that awareness travels like mist, bringing bits of sound and touch into your dreams, which is a gradual repetition of consciousness. Now, take a deep breath. Allow the world to fade into soft hums and far-off echoes. Allow your thoughts to become calmer, softer, and lighter. Your waking senses will lead you inward into a more subdued state of awareness when sound turns into thought and thought into sleep. You can subscribe to the channel and come back for the next narrative if you liked this languid exploration of science, the wonders of the senses, and the symphony of experience. Innumerable worlds remain in anticipation. Faraway stars, deep oceans, and the peculiar mechanics of the mind. But for now, you've reached the still point where curiosity meets peace. Shut your eyes. Give up the day and eventually enter that gentle, limitless quiet where all senses subside and only tranquility endures. Good night.